How's it going, everybody? I hope you're doing well. In today's episode of the Beginner's Guide to World Building, we're talking terrain, map layout, and structure. Let's learn how to make some maps. Welcome back to the Beginner's Guide to World Building, everyone. I'm Cameron Holt, and today we're going to walk through some different methods that you can use to create maps for your own fantasy worlds, or not fantasy worlds, made-up stuff. I use these methods specifically for D&D, and that's probably why you're here too. I may not cover every method in this video, but I'll at least touch on the ones that I use or find the most useful, as well as some interesting options for randomization. Also, if you found this video because you're building your own world for a homebrewed tabletop role-playing game, this is actually the second video in the Beginner's Guide to World Building series. Don't forget to check out the first video by following the link right here. You can go ahead and watch it now. I don't mind waiting. Just don't forget to come back. So, you want to create a beautiful map, but you don't have a single artistic bone in your body. Or maybe you do. Either way, not to worry. With the tools we're going to discuss in this video, you can create a useful map with little to no experience even holding a pen. Let's get started with some of the crazier methods, and then we'll work our way up to some more refined options. Method number 1, the throw stuff and trace it method. If there's one thing that we D&D players have in droves, it's dice. With this method, you simply take a sheet of paper and roll out your dice collection on top. From there, you take a pen or a pencil and you trace along the groups of dice on the paper to give yourself some landforms. Alternatively, if the dice aren't cooperating with you, or if they're too big for the paper size that you're working with, you can also use grains of rice. I honestly prefer the grain of rice method because it's more workable, smaller, and kind of naturally lends itself to the kinds of shapes that you'll come across on a map anyway, specifically those little jagged edges. From here, you can go back to your shapes and fill in various landforms like lakes, mountains, forests, deserts, all kinds of things that you want to exist in your world. Need a mountain range? Triangles are your friends. If you want to get a little more refined with it, you can draw a squiggly shape kind of akin to a lightning bolt, and then make some little curves coming out from the edges for a more traditional look. Need lakes and rivers? No need for a steady hand. Forests? Just make big amorphous cloud shapes. You can also differentiate regions with color if you're using paints, colored pencils, or crayons, or whatever coloring tool you've chosen. When you finish creating your map, you can age the paper by lightly painting it with some coffee or tea and lightly burning the edges with a lighter or something to give it that aged look. This is more if you're planning to use your map as a prop in your games, but isn't super necessary. Method number 2, the Photoshop method. For this method, you'll need some sort of photo editing software to get the best results. For the purposes of this video, I'll be using Photoshop because that's what I have, but you could also use some good free options like Krita or GIMP. This is just what I use. Step 1 of this method is to scour the internet or your backyard, front yard, apartment complex, parking lot, or whatever you've got nearby for some textures. You can photograph the textures with your phone or a digital camera and throw them on your computer for use in Photoshop. Next, choose your favorite texture and start playing with the settings. now you've got the start of your very own map. All that's left is to fill in the landforms, cities, labels, and you're good to go. For city maps, you can use the Fantasy City Generator by Watabu, or Watabao. Still not entirely sure how to pronounce that one. But you can use it to randomly generate and then tweak and adjust your map to your liking. We're going to use this method to create a quick map of the town of Imp Gulch for our fantasy western setting, Elegreet. Once you've got the bones of something that you're into, you can export it, load that bad boy up in Photoshop, throw on some filters, change some things around, add some color, take away some color, and give it a more personalized feel. Easy peasy. The final method that we're going to cover in this video is my personal favorite. It's a website called Incarnate. This website is free to use and has some of the best tools that I have come across for creating your own fantasy maps to your own specifications. There's a paid subscription that gives you access to more features, but it's not needed to get started. Again, this isn't an ad. I'm just a big fan of the tools that they provide to noobs like myself to create maps. I'm going to use this website to create the map of Elegreet, our high fantasy spaghetti western setting that we began building in the first episode of the series, while also showing you how to use this fantastic software. Website, software. Website, software. When you open up the website, you choose what type of map you're here to create. We're making a regional map today. From here, you can choose what size you need, and you're ready to start creating. It'll bring you to a screen that looks like this. I'd recommend adjusting your zoom to make sure that you're being shown the full map that you're working with, as it can sometimes be cut off upon opening. Next, it's time to start making your landforms. I recommend blocking in some ground with the Add tool until you get roughly the shapes you like, before going back in with the Subtract tool and carving out some more detailed edges and rivers. Luckily, the website does a lot of this for you with the deckled edges, but think about real landforms. There are usually islands along coastlines, so adding some will give your map a more believable look. Now, we'll go into the paintbrush section and use some textures to help define the regions of our map. I usually start with grass, then add in other regions as needed. We already know that the Elegreet campaign will start in a desert town, so there will need to be a moderately sized desert region. You can also alter whether you're working with the foreground or background to go in and change the color of the surrounding oceans. Once you're happy with the textures, it's time to start adding features. Click the little house symbol to see a variety of stamps you can add to your map, such as mountains, trees, buildings, cities, and more. Play around with this tool and adjust the look and structure of your world. Lastly, we'll go on with the text tool and label the continents, cities, oceans, and any other prominent features that you'd like. I'd recommend using different fonts or colors of text for the different sections. A cohesive look for oceans, a different look for cities, etc. This will make your map more readable and easy to navigate with the eyes. You can change the opacity of the text as well as adjust its size, rotation, and curvature with the sliders on the side. All that's left is to come up with some fitting names for the places you've created. When you're happy with what you've got, you can export the map to your computer and you've got everything you need to show your players a God's eye view of the world they're inhabiting. And there you have it, your very own town, city, and region maps to use in your own D&D game, tabletop RPGs, or even for that novel that you've been writing and are definitely going to finish very soon. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, don't forget to subscribe to Fantasy Forge for even more D&D content, help with world building, D&D Pokemon fusions, tabletop crafting, and all things D&D. If you used any of the methods that you learned here to create maps for your own games, I'd love to see them. Tag me on Twitter @CameronHoltDM with your maps and creations so that we can nerd out together. So in this video, we talked about building a town as far as maps. In the next video, we're going to talk about building a town as far as creating NPCs, plot hooks, and basic societal structures. I'll see all of you in the next video. But until then, stay safe out there, adventurers.